What if Hollywood's most outspoken tough guy meets daytime television's most controversial host? Mark Wahlberg thought he was walking into a routine promotional appearance on The View, but what unfolded was an explosive confrontation that had producers scrambling and security on high alert. This wasn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This was a masterclass in how personal grudges can destroy professional boundaries. Before we dive in this fictional dramatization story, make sure to read disclaimer and subscribe to the channel. Also, drop a comment because this story gets more intense with every passing minute. Mark Wahlberg straightened his blazer as he stepped onto the set of The View, his trademark grin greeted by warm applause. But it wasn't the crowd that made him pause. It was the steely look in Joy Behar's eyes. He'd sat through countless interviews, fielded every tough question in the book, but something about Joy's demeanor sent a chill down his spine. This wasn't going to be the friendly press tour stop his publicist had promised. "Welcome back to The View. I'm Joy Behar," she said, her voice tinged with that unmistakable sharpness longtime viewers had learned to anticipate. "We're joined today by Mark Wahlberg. And Mark, I must admit, I've been eager for this chat for quite some time." Mark eased into his seat with a nod, his confidence evident in every motion. "Appreciate it, Joy. Always a pleasure being here with you ladies." "Is it, though?" Joy's smile turned razor-edged. "Because, if I recall, you've made some bold statements about people in my profession. Something about actors thinking they're political philosophers." A ripple moved through the crowd. This wasn't going to be the casual sit-down they were expecting. Mark's jaw flexed, but he kept cool. "Maybe that got taken a little out of context, Joy." "Oh, really? Because I happen to have the quote right here. Some of these Hollywood types need to stick to what they know instead of lecturing working-class Americans about politics. Sound familiar?" Mark leaned in, his voice even. "I didn't name names, and I still stand by it. There's a line between sharing opinions and preaching from a pedestal." "Preaching from a pedestal," Joy repeated with a sarcastic lilt. "Interesting choice of words from someone who's built a brand on playing rough-around-the-edges street guys. So, tell me, Mark, when did you become the voice of working-class America?" The energy in the studio cooled instantly. Mark's co-hosts glanced at each other, sensing the tension climb. What was supposed to be a breezy segment had veered into hostile waters. "I've never claimed to speak for anyone," Mark replied, his accent deepening as frustration bubbled. "But I'm from Dorchester, Joy. I know what it's like to hustle, to scrape by. I didn't grow up sipping cocktails and cracking wise about other people's lives." Joy's eyes narrowed. "Ivory Tower, huh? You think that's what this is? I've been doing this gig longer than you've been in the spotlight. I've earned my place at this table, and I've earned the right to call out hypocrisy when I see it." Mark shot back. "You spend every day telling your viewers what to think, how to vote, what's right and what's wrong. Meanwhile, most of the people watching are wondering how they're going to afford groceries this week." A heavy silence fell. Whoopi started to raise her hand to diffuse the tension, but Joy wasn't done. No, let's keep going," she said coolly. "Please, Mark, educate us. Tell us what this platform is for. Should we avoid tough topics, stick to weather reports and promo plugs?" Mark's knuckles whitened as he gripped the table. "You're doing it right now, twisting the conversation so it's not about ideas, it's about tearing me down because I don't agree with you. And what you said was tone-deaf. You want to talk about blue-collar struggles? I grew up in Brooklyn. My dad drove a truck. Don't pretend you've cornered the market on hardship." "Then maybe don't act like you're better than the rest of us." Mark's voice cracked with rising anger. "You mock people for how they vote, what they believe, where they're from." Joy's laugh cut through the room. "Beliefs? Oh, you mean the same ones you had when you were getting arrested? The same ones behind those racist assaults?" The room froze. Mark's face went pale, then flushed with fury. "That's low, even for you." "Is it?" Joy said without blinking. You want to talk values? Let's talk about the real you, not the polished movie star version. Mark rose from his chair, its legs scraping harshly against the studio floor. This is what I'm talking about. You don't want discussion, you want destruction. Sit down, Mark, Joy commanded. We're not finished. Yeah, we are, but he didn't walk away. He stood his ground, trembling with restrained rage. This isn't an interview, it's a public execution. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every beat of the meltdown. Producers were panicking in the control room, trying to figure out how to regain control. Joy leaned back with a smug grin. She had him exactly where she wanted him. So now you're running. That's your big move. Real hero of the people. Mark's fists tightened. I'm not running. I'm refusing to play your game. My game? Joy echoed with a laugh that grated on every ear. This is my show. You're a guest. If you can't handle being in the kitchen, then don't invite me to the fire. Whoopi tried again. Let's shift to Mark's new film, shall we? Joy waved her off. No, Whoopi. Our viewers deserve truth. He came in here preaching values. Let's examine them. Mark slowly sat back down, shoulders tight with controlled fury. Then let's talk honestly, something you seem to struggle with. Honestly? Joy barked. Here's honesty. You're just another pampered actor who forgot what it means to struggle. You profit off the working class image, but live like royalty. You think I forgot what it's like? Mark's voice dropped, icy and sharp. I watched my mom juggle 3 jobs. I know exactly where I came from. Oh, save it. The humor roots story doesn't excuse how you treat people now. I wonder what your mother thinks, watching you dismiss those fighting for progress. Progress? Mark's laugh was bitter. You call this progress? Dividing people, mocking half the country, turning their concerns into late-night jokes? I mock ignorance, and right now, you're the poster boy. Audible gasps swept through the audience. The tension had reached its breaking point. Mark leaned in, voice low and cutting. You think having a platform means you get to humiliate people? That's what's wrong with this industry. You're a microphone-wielding bully. A bully? You assaulted people in the streets. At least I use words, not fists. And there you go again, Mark growled, dragging up the past to dodge accountability. You're incapable of arguing without attacking. You think you've done something noble, that you've pushed progress forward by sitting in a cushy studio shouting over anyone who doesn't agree with you. Mark's tone was steady, but the undercurrent of contempt was unmistakable. Joy's eyes narrowed. You don't know what you're talking about. I've done more for social justice, for women's rights, for progressive causes than you've done in your entire career. Mark's eyebrows arched, amused. By doing what? He fired back. Repeating the same lines to the same echo chamber every day? Labeling anyone who disagrees with you as dangerous? Tearing people down with a smug grin while pretending it's for the greater good? I've used my platform to fight for what's right, Joy insisted, her voice climbing, to stand up against bullies like you. Mark gave a cold, humorless laugh. Bullies like me. Take a look around, Joy. You invited me here under the pretense of a conversation. Instead, you set me up. You wanted a public spectacle, not a dialogue. And now that it's backfiring, I'm suddenly the villain? The atmosphere in the studio froze. The audience, the crew, even the camera operators, all still, watching. Whoopi shifted uneasily. Maybe now's a good time for a break? No, Joy cut in sharply. We're not going to hide behind a commercial. The audience deserves to see who this man really is. Mark's expression hardened. No, Joy, they're seeing exactly who you are. Someone who's turned what could have been meaningful discussion into a gladiator match. Someone who'd rather destroy than listen. Joy sneered. Is this like the time you listened to that Vietnamese man you assaulted? Oh, wait, there was no conversation there, just violence. A collective gasp swept through the room. Mark turned pale. His voice, when he found it, was low but razor sharp. Thank you for proving my point. You're not here for justice. You're here to win, no matter who you hurt in the process. Joy's lips trembled. I care about the truth. Mark shook his head. No, you care about your version of it. You want to look like the smartest person in the room, even if it means being the cruelest. Joy's control started to unravel. "You don't dare accuse me of being cruel! And you don't come on here pretending you want a real interview when you've already made your verdict. This isn't journalism. This isn't even daytime drama. It's cruelty masked as commentary." The tension was unbearable. Viewers at home wouldn't be able to look away. The camera was capturing something raw and real and utterly devastating. Joy darted her eyes around the studio, searching for control she no longer had. Mark stood poised, breathing hard, unshaken. Then came Joy's fatal blow. A smirk crossed her face, cutting and cold. "Maybe you should go back to your little Boston neighborhood and stay there. Let the real thinkers handle the heavy lifting." Mark's face darkened. "My little Boston neighborhood? You mean where actual working people live, where people hustle every day without being paid millions to spin venom on TV?" Joy chuckled cruelly. "Honest jobs, like selling drugs, like beating people up in alleys. Isn't that what you were doing before Hollywood gave you a second chance?" The line crossed all boundaries. Mark stepped forward instinctively, and 3 security guards immediately took cautious steps closer. "You want to go there?" Mark said coldly. "Because I can play that game too. Let's talk about your stand-up career that went nowhere. You couldn't make people laugh, so you started making them angry instead. That became your brand." Joy looked stricken. "You have no idea." "Oh, I know. I know you're bitter. I know you thrive on tearing people down because you can't build anything real. I know you pick fights, then cry foul when someone hits back. You don't get to say that to me. And you don't get to ambush your guests, smear their past, then play the victim. This isn't advocacy, Joy. This is bullying." The atmosphere was electric. The audience barely breathed. The control room wasn't cutting to commercial. This was too big. Joy was unraveling fast. Her verbs came in shrill bursts. "I fight for what's right. I stand up to people like you who use intimidation." "Intimidation?" Mark's voice was pure disbelief. "You've been hammering me since I sat down. This isn't bravery. It's bullying behind a desk. I ask tough questions. That's what journalists do." Mark looked at her like she'd grown a second head. "You think this is journalism? You're not trying to get to the truth. You're trying to create drama. You're not a journalist, Joy. You're a shock jock dressed in prime time." Joy flinched. For a brief moment, all her bravado dropped. "Get out," she whispered. Mark blinked. "What?"
"I said get out," she screamed. "Leave my show. Get off my set." He stared in disbelief. "You're kicking me off? After you staged this attack? After you dragged up my past to humiliate me?" "Yes," she said, pointing toward the wings. "You don't belong here." Mark laughed dryly. "This is rich. You start a fire, and when it burns you, you throw me out. You've just proven every single point I made." "Security!" Joy called out shakily. "Get him out!" Even the security team hesitated. Mark wasn't hostile. He was just refusing to be her punching bag. He raised his hands. "Relax. I'm leaving. Not because you're throwing me out, but because I still respect myself enough not to take abuse from someone who's lost all sense of decency." He walked to the edge of the set, then turned one last time. "You know what the real tragedy is, Joy? Today could have been something different. We could have shown people that disagreement doesn't have to mean hatred. But instead, you became exactly what everyone accuses you of being. You chose to be the villain." Joy's face was now flushed with rage and humiliation. "Just get out." "I'm going," Mark said, calmly. "But your audience will remember this moment. They'll remember who started this and who tried to end it, who stayed respectful and who chose cruelty, who acted like a professional and who acted like a bully." As he walked off set, the room was heavy with stunned silence. Joy stood rooted in place, trembling, knowing deep down that she had just lost something she'd never get back. The cameras kept rolling as Mark vanished behind the curtains, leaving behind scorched earth and a legacy-defining moment. The confrontation was over, but the damage had been done. She wanted a fight. She got one, but she lost the war. Whoopi's voice cracked through the silence. We'll be right back after this short break. But everyone knew nothing could fix what had just happened. This was The View's most shocking moment ever, and Joy Behar would never recover from it. The backlash was immediate. Clips flooded social media. Headlines exploded. Think pieces were written before the commercial break even ended. And in every conversation, one truth rang loud and clear. Joy Behar had finally gone too far. Mark Wahlberg had walked into The View expecting to talk movies. He walked out a legend of live TV. He'd been kicked off, but left with his head high. Joy, however, left behind the thing she could never reclaim: the respect of her audience and the credibility of her voice. The confrontation was over, but the debate it sparked would live on. And every time someone remembered that infamous day, they'd recall who held their dignity and who exposed their spite. They'd remember exactly this line: "You don't know what you're talking about. I've done more for social justice, for women's rights, for progressive causes than you've done in your entire career."